A young woman led a modest existence in a quaint village. One fateful day, she found herself compelled to wed a general, a union meant to strengthen political alliances. The youthful maiden felt a deep sorrow and harbored countless aspirations. After many years of waiting, the pivotal moment in her life finally arrived. Stay tuned for this thrilling tale and be sure to subscribe to the channel. The image in the mirror appeared nearly foreign. Emily watched, a blend of intrigue and dread washing over her, as she reflected on the change she had experienced in just a few hours. The wedding dress, adorned with intricate embroidery and delicate pearls, felt as though it were constricting her with every breath she took. The maids flitted about her like restless butterflies, meticulously fine-tuning every detail with unwavering precision. As the housekeeper, Mrs. Grayson, oversaw the scene with her sharp, watchful gaze. "Straighten your back, Miss Emily," Mrs. Grayson commanded for the 10th time that morning. A future general's wife must embody grace and poise, far removed from the demeanor of a peasant. Emily stifled a sigh of exasperation. Only 3 months prior, she roamed her family's fields, unrestrained among the golden wheat, basking in the warmth of the sun and the gentle caress of the wind through her hair. Now she stood on the brink of becoming the wife of General Victor Aldridge, a man she hardly knew, all due to a political arrangement forged between her father and the local government. The stone castle, with its frigid walls and infinite hallways, was an entirely distinct realm from all that she had experienced. Every footfall resonated in the corridors, a constant reminder of her newly forged gilded prison. The lofty windows allowed sunlight to pour in, yet the heavy glass muted the warmth, rendering the atmosphere even more contrived and remote. "The general will be pleased," murmured one of the maids, as she delicately adjusted the lace veil over Emily's dark curls. "You appear absolutely radiant." Miss Emily managed a smile, yet her green eyes betrayed the tempest brewing within her. General Victor was undeniably a striking figure, standing tall with an impeccable military presence and captivating blue eyes. He garnered admiration wherever he traveled. During the limited interactions they shared, he consistently maintained a friendly and courteous demeanor. Yet, within his gaze lay a chilling precision that sent a shiver down her spine. "The final rehearsal is upon us," Mrs. Grayson declared, glancing at her pocket watch. "The wedding is tomorrow, and every detail must be flawless." Emily trailed behind the housekeeper, her heavy dress trailing on the rich red carpet as they navigated the castle's winding corridors. With every step, she drifted further from the dreams of her youth, from the afternoons lost in novels tucked away in the barn, from the exhilarating moments of freedom as she galloped through the fields. As she walked by one of the windows, her eyes were captivated by the stables. Among the finely cared-for horses, one stood out to her, a magnificent and untamed black stallion that had just arrived at the castle. Their gazes locked for an instant, and Emily sensed an instant bond with that wild essence. The rehearsal unfolded with the precision of a finely tuned performance. Emily went through the motions, reciting the hollow phrases as her thoughts drifted to far-off realms. The priest, an elderly man with a flat tone, delivered the sacred words with the same fervor as one might read a grocery list. As night descended and she was at last granted access to her chambers, Emily was overwhelmed with fatigue. It was not merely her body that ached, but it felt as though her very essence had been contorted and confined to an impossibly tight space. The attendants assisted her in shedding the wedding dress, and at last, she could take a deep breath. In solitude, she approached the window from her room. The crescent moon cast a gentle glow over the castle gardens, while the distant city lights twinkled like stars on earth. Beyond those lights lay her past, a time of liberation. The dark stallion remained discernible in the stable, its regal outline framed by the night sky. In that moment, a notion started to take shape in her thoughts, a perilous, unimaginable notion for someone of her stature. Yet the more she contemplated it, the more it captivated her. The ebony steed appeared to beckon her, offering a final opportunity to savor liberation before the shackles of matrimony ensnared her for eternity. Emily shut her eyes and inhaled deeply. She understood that her intentions were reckless, yet her heart raced at the mere thought of it. Tomorrow marked the beginning of a new chapter, yet tonight belonged solely to her. She was determined to embrace it fully, reveling in the essence of who she was, one final time. With quivering hands, she started to transition from her nightgown into attire more fitting for an evening ride. The castle lay in slumber, yet Emily was fully alert, poised for her quiet defiance against the destiny imposed upon her by others. Emily glided through the castle corridors, her movements as quiet as a whisper, the plush carpets absorbing the sound of her footsteps. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic rhythm that she worried the guards might detect. Clad in riding breeches unearthed from the depths of her trunk and a plain shirt, she experienced a sense of authenticity that had eluded her for months. The journey to the stables felt interminable. Each creaking door and every whisper of the wind caused her to freeze, bracing for discovery. Yet, years spent navigating the shadows of her old home had honed her skill in the delicate art of silence. At last, she achieved what she had been striving for. The comforting scent of hay and horses welcomed her as if it were a long-lost companion. The ebony stallion stood alert, as though anticipating her arrival. His keen eyes glimmered in the shadows, mirroring the moonlight that filtered through the gaps in the ceiling. Emily moved forward with caution, reaching out her hand in a sign of goodwill. "Hello, gorgeous," she murmured, taking in the sheen of his fur. "How about a little adventure tonight?" The horse replied with a gentle neigh, bowing its head to explore her hand with a curious sniff. Emily beamed, sensing an immediate bond with the creature. She decided to call him Thunder, gently stroking his muscular neck, for he embodied the freedom and strength of a tempest. With careful and practiced motions, Emily readied Thunder for the journey, each buckle fastened, each knot secured, marking a minor triumph over the ticking clock. The horse stayed remarkably composed, as though it grasped the importance of subtlety. Leading Thunder from the stable, Emily inhaled the cool night air deeply. The moon cast its glow over the fields beyond the castle walls, a tempting call to liberation. With a graceful movement, she climbed onto the horse and, after a brief pause, guided him toward a side path she had discovered during her guided strolls. The breeze danced through her hair the moment they crossed the castle's secondary gates. Emily had meticulously observed the guards' patterns for several weeks, and she was acutely aware of the precise moment when the shift change left a vulnerability in their watchfulness. Thunder glided through the landscape, his hooves whispering against the lush grass beneath him. As they finally arrived at the main road, Emily relaxed her grip on the reins just a bit more. Thunder reacted without hesitation, quickening his stride. The world unfolded in a cascade of shadows and moonlight, and for the first time in months, Emily experienced a profound sense of vitality. The vast expanse unfolded before her, rolling softly in the cool night air. The aroma of wildflowers intertwined with the crisp air, evoking memories of her untamed childhood. Emily granted Thunder the freedom to select his own route, placing her faith in the creature's natural instincts. At that moment, an unforeseen event unfolded. As they moved past a quaint grove, Emily caught sight of a lone figure standing by the roadside. The moonlight unveiled a towering figure, astride a steed as magnificent as Thunder. Her heart raced as their eyes locked in a moment of connection. "A lady shouldn't ride alone at this hour," the stranger remarked, his deep voice laced with a hint of amusement that belied the seriousness of his statement. Emily straightened in the saddle, lifting her chin defiantly. "And a gentleman shouldn't rush to conclusions about someone he doesn't know," she retorted, taken aback by her own audacity. The man chuckled, a deep and heartfelt sound that resonated in the stillness of the night. "Touché, my lady," he replied, a subtle nod of his head accompanying his words. The moonlight cast a glow on his chiseled features and piercing gaze, as if he could peer into the depths of her very being. "I must admit that my curiosity has been stirred. It's rare to encounter someone with such resolve at this hour." Emily felt a shiver run down her spine, not from fear, but from something else, something she couldn't quite identify. The enigmatic figure exuded a captivating aura, a blend of allure and caution that both fascinated and unsettled her. Maybe I'm seeking answers, she said, selecting her words with precision. Or maybe you're evading questions, he countered, his intense gaze examining every nuance of her expression. A stillness thick with anticipation enveloped them. Emily sensed Thunder's unease beneath her, mirroring her own inner turmoil. The figure stood still, a silent equestrian statue illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. The finest insights often emerge when we cease our frantic pace, he remarked at last, his tone gentler now. But sometimes we need the escape to find the courage to face the truth. His words struck Emily with the force of a storm, echoing within her, stirring an unsettling realization. Before she had the chance to reply, a far-off wolf's howl shattered the enchantment of the moment. Thunder rumbled, a poignant reminder for Emily of the fleeting moments. I must leave now, she said, collecting the reins. We will cross paths once more, declared the stranger with a conviction that unsettled her. It was not merely a question. It was a statement of intent. Emily directed Thunder towards the castle, her heart racing with an unpredictable cadence. As she cast a final glance over her shoulder, the stranger had vanished, as though he were a figment of her imagination, leaving behind only his cryptic words resonating in her thoughts. The sun had just begun to rise as Emily made her way back to her chambers, her heart still pounding from the thrilling escapade of the night. As the sun began to rise, the first golden rays painted the sky, heralding the arrival of her wedding day. The voice of the enigmatic figure lingered in her thoughts, unsettling her mind like ripples disturbing a tranquil pond. She hardly had a moment to switch outfits before Mrs. Grayson stormed into the room, trailed by a swarm of maids. Her keen gaze swept across the surroundings, lingering briefly on the muddy boots awkwardly concealed beneath the bed. Miss Emily, you look quite pale, remarked the housekeeper, her voice laced with a hint of suspicion. I trust you had a good night's sleep. Today holds great significance. Indeed, madam. Grayson, Emily responded, maintaining her composure despite her weariness, feeling a touch anxious about the arrangements. The following hours unfolded in a flurry of events. Emily found herself enveloped in waters infused with the delicate scent of roses. Her nails gleamed with a lustrous polish akin to pearls, and her hair was artfully styled in an intricate arrangement. Every detail was managed with meticulous attention by Mrs. Grayson. General Victor possesses a discerning palate, remarked one of the maids, as she tightened the corset of the wedding dress. You are quite fortunate to have been selected, miss. Fortunate. Emily stifled a sardonic grin. What sort of fortune was it that confined her within a gilded prison? Her mind drifted back to the meeting of the night before, to those enigmatic eyes that appeared to penetrate her very essence. Miss Emily, Mrs. Grayson's stern voice snapped her back to the present. You're daydreaming again. A woman must consistently uphold her poise. The wedding gown, even more intricate than the one worn during the rehearsal, felt as heavy as armor. The delicate layers of silk and lace constrained her movements, transforming each step into a careful dance of balance. The image in the mirror revealed a fairy tale princess, yet Emily sensed she was merely a puppet in an opulent theater. A gentle rap on the door signaled her father's presence. Anthony Miller, a man of modest beginnings who had earned admiration through his toil on the fields, stepped into the room with glistening eyes. My daughter, he uttered, his voice thick with feeling. You look beautiful. Emily's heart fluttered with a sudden intensity. She understood that her father was convinced he was acting in her best interest, securing a bright future through this union. How could she convey that wealth and status did not equate to true freedom? Father, she started, but a disturbance in the hallway cut her off. General Victor arrived at the castle ahead of schedule. His commanding presence was felt long before he stepped into the room, as his authoritative voice resonated through the corridors, issuing commands to the servants. It's not good luck for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony, Mrs. Grayson exclaimed, visibly flustered, but the moment had already passed. The door swung open, revealing General Victor, a striking figure in his full dress uniform adorned with an array of medals. His cerulean gaze swept across the room before settling on Emily, a pleased smile curling at the corners of his mouth. "My future wife," he declared, his rich voice resonating throughout the space. "It appears they have gone to great lengths to ensure you are deserving of your new role." A chill coursed through Emily. In that gaze, there was an unsettling intensity, a primal urge that stirred her instinct to flee. Yet, the stranger's words from the previous night echoed in her mind, anchoring her in place. The most insightful responses often emerge when we pause our relentless pace. "General," she replied, executing a flawless curtsy, precisely as Mrs. Grayson had instructed. "It's quite a surprise to see you so early. I arrived to personally verify that everything meets my standards," he clarified, drawing closer. "This wedding signifies more than just a union. It embodies the strengthening of a vital alliance." His fingers brushed against Emily's chin, compelling her to meet his gaze. "And you, my dear, are the most treasured gem of this alliance." The caress, though soft, left Emily with a sense of being marked, as if a branding iron had seared her skin. In that instant, she longed more than ever to be astride a storm, racing unrestrained across the meadows beneath the glow of the moon. "The ceremony will commence in 2 hours, declared the general, addressing all present. "I anticipate that everything will unfold with the flawless execution I have envisioned." Once he departed, Emily permitted herself to exhale once more. The atmosphere in the room shifted back to its earlier turmoil, yet an undeniable change lingered in the air. A quiet resolve started to blossom within her, ignited by the recollection of the night meeting and the mysterious phrases of the unknown figure. Should she be unable to evade her fate, maybe she could confront it according to her own will. The chapel of the castle shimmered under the glow of countless candles. The sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting a vibrant mosaic of colors that twirled gracefully over the elegantly attired guests. The atmosphere was thick with the fragrance of white lilies, adorning each bench, every column, and every nook and cranny. Emily lingered in the cramped vestibule, her father standing beside her, both enveloped in quietude. The bouquet of white roses quivered gently in her gloved hands. From the slightly ajar door, she caught the soft whispers of the local elite, all keen to observe the union that would solidify significant political ties. "There's still time," her father whispered, catching her off guard. Anthony Miller had never been one for chatter, but when he did speak, his words resonated with the depth of experience gained from a lifetime of toil. "Time for what, Dad?" "What?" Emily asked, her heart racing at the unspoken potential in those words. "To be happy," he replied, his gaze locking onto hers with a surprising fervor. "I always envisioned your wedding would be for love, just as mine was with your mother." Emily felt tears welling up, but she fought to keep them at bay. The memory of her mother, who had left this world when she was just a child, stirred a tumult of emotions within her. "You wouldn't support a withdrawal at this point?" she stated rather than asked. "I would support your happiness," he answered plainly. "Yet I am acutely aware of the burdens that come with such duties." Before Emily had a chance to reply, the initial notes of the organ signaled the start of the ceremony. The grand oak doors swung open, unveiling the central aisle of the chapel, where eager faces awaited. At the altar stood General Victor, a commanding presence in his full dress uniform. His military demeanor and stern expression stood in stark contrast to the enchanting ambience that the decorators had meticulously crafted. Beside him stood a man Emily didn't know, watching with an inscrutable gaze. With each step toward the altar, the weight felt more burdensome. Emily concentrated on her breath, recalling the stranger's words from the night before. "At times, we require an escape to muster the bravery to confront the truth." What truth awaited her acknowledgement? As she approached the altar, her father gently pressed his lips to her forehead before entrusting her to the general. The frigid caress of his gloves sent a tremor coursing through her spine. The priest commenced the ceremony, his droning voice resonating throughout the chapel. At that moment, an unforeseen event unfolded. As she lifted her gaze, Emily locked eyes with the man beside the general. In a moment of startling clarity, She recognized him as the same enigmatic figure she had met on her nocturnal journey. His eyes, even more piercing in the daylight, communicated an unspoken message that eluded her understanding. The general seemed to sense her wandering thoughts, tightening his grip on her hand and drawing her focus back to the ceremony. "The vows," he murmured, his voice low and laced with caution. Emily started to speak the memorized phrases, yet each vow felt heavy on her tongue, as if made of lead. She vowed to be obedient, respectful, devoted. Hollow declarations that reverberated through the chapel like the specters of her genuine longings. The enigmatic figure kept watching her, his intense stare stirring up recollections of the liberation she had experienced while racing beneath the moon. Who was he? What brought him there? And why did his presence unsettle her so deeply? The moment of exchanging rings unfolded like a surreal vision. The weighty gold band on her finger seemed less a token of togetherness and more a binding restraint. The general wore a satisfied smile, yet his eyes were as frigid as ice. When the priest announced them as husband and wife, Emily sensed an invisible door shutting behind her. The general's kiss was quick and formal, serving more as a display for the onlookers than a sign of genuine affection. At the reception that followed, Emily watched the enigmatic man engage with several prominent guests. His presence created a quiet buzz, as if he were a familiar figure, yet no one seemed willing to discuss him openly. Later, my cousin Mark, the general, clarified this when he noticed her curiosity. A remarkable individual, yet his notions lean towards the avant-garde for my liking. It's best to maintain some space from him. The name seemed at odds with the man she encountered the previous evening, and Emily was convinced there was more to that narrative than the general was prepared to disclose. Every fresh detail deepened the enigma of that mysterious figure. The gathering flowed into the afternoon, evolving into a grand feast as night descended. Emily beamed, twirled, and embodied the essence of a bride. Yet her thoughts wandered far beyond, galloping through open fields beneath a canopy of stars, accompanied by the rumble of distant thunder. In a fleeting moment of distraction, Mark drew near, presenting her with a glass of wine. "The finest tales," he murmured softly, "are those that commence with an unforeseen conclusion." Before Emily could utter a word, he had already slipped away, leaving her with a multitude of questions lingering in the air. What was his significance? What part did he occupy in this narrative that appeared to grow more intricate? The initial week as General Victor's wife flew by in a flurry of new protocols and anticipations. Emily realized that assuming the role of the lady of the castle entailed far more than donning exquisite gowns and participating in lavish banquets. Each moment of her day was carefully orchestrated by Mrs. Grayson, who now acted in direct accordance with the general's commands. The wife of a general is expected to embody virtue and composure, the housekeeper reiterated as she oversaw the etiquette, posture, and conversation classes that filled Emily's mornings. At no point should her humble origins be apparent. The afternoons were reserved for gatherings with influential individuals whom the general deemed essential to his political ambitions. Emily felt compelled to smile and nod along to discussions that eluded her comprehension, all while being scrutinized by her husband's keen gaze. It was at one of these gatherings that she unexpectedly crossed paths with Mark for the second time. His sudden presence at the afternoon tea stirred noticeable unease in the general. "Cousin," Victor said, his voice taut, "I didn't know you were in the area. The best visits are always unexpected. Don't you agree, Emily?" Mark replied, his gaze locking onto hers with an unsettling intensity. Emily's heart quickened. There was an undeniable quality in the way he said her name, as if he possessed a secret meant solely for their ears. The general, sensing the unspoken connection, swiftly placed himself between them. "Emily, dear, why don't you go check if the kitchen has properly prepared the cakes for our guests?" Victor suggested, his tone unmistakably authoritative. As she walked away, Emily caught snippets of the conversation between the two men. Words like agreement, betrayal, and consequences drifted to her ears, heightening her curiosity about the true nature of their relationship. That evening, as they gathered around the dinner table, Emily took a chance and posed a few inquiries. "Your cousin has some rather intriguing views on politics," she remarked nonchalantly. The general placed his cutlery down with a noticeable intensity. "Mark is not a topic for a lady to engage in," he replied with a hint of sarcasm. "Concentrate on your responsibilities as a wife." Yet, Emily found it impossible to overlook the enigmas that were piling up. As she strolled through the castle gardens, peculiar movements caught her attention. Carriages rolled in during the early hours. Secretive meetings unfolded behind closed doors, and papers were incinerated in the general's office fireplace. One afternoon, while searching for a book in the castle library, Emily stumbled upon a hidden compartment behind one of the bookshelves. Inside lay old letters and a diary penned in Mark's handwriting. Her heart raced as she delved into the first pages. "True power resides not in weapons or wealth, but in the secrets we guard," one passage proclaimed. Victor selected his course, yet he overlooked the fact that every decision carries its cost. The echo of footsteps in the corridor prompted her to swiftly conceal the documents. Moments later, Mrs. Grayson entered, her discerning eyes sweeping across the library. The housekeeper declared, "The general is seeking you, madam. He wishes to talk about the arrangements for next week's ball." The ball. Emily had nearly let slip from her mind the grand occasion that the general had meticulously orchestrated for weeks. It would mark the first moment she would be formally introduced to high society as his wife. As Emily immersed herself in the preparations, the words from the diary echoed relentlessly in her mind. What mysteries lay beneath Victor's facade? What part did Mark truly play in this unfolding narrative? Her musings were suddenly disrupted by a captivating find. While overseeing the setup of the guest rooms for the ball, she stumbled upon an ancient portrait concealed within one of the wardrobes. The artwork depicted a young woman remarkably like her, adorned in a wedding gown. Inscribed on the back, a worn message read, "Forgive me, Victor, M." The enigma thickened, and Emily started to wonder if her marriage was merely the surface of a far more profound secret. The castle walls appeared to guard mysteries that could profoundly alter her perception of the general, of Mark, and of her own position within this complex tapestry of connections. In the solitude of her chambers at night, as the general insisted on separate quarters, Emily gazed at the moon through the window. Thunder was in the stable, and she yearned for the liberation of another night ride. Now, as the general's wife, her watchfulness intensified. A cryptic note appeared beneath her door. "All is not as it appears. The ball would unveil truths long concealed. M." Emily held the note tightly, sensing that she was on the brink of uncovering far more than mere political secrets. As the event drew near, it brought with it the tantalizing promise of revelations that could alter her fate forever. The preparations for the ball turned the castle into a hive of bustling energy. Velvet curtains were swapped out, silver candlesticks gleamed after being polished, and the main hall was adorned with intricate displays of fresh flowers. Emily watched it all unfold, feeling both captivated and uneasy, knowing that every detail served a deeper significance beyond simple decoration. "This ball will serve as a significant milestone in our community," announced the general over breakfast. "Many esteemed guests will be in attendance, including the governor and his wife. I trust you will conduct yourselves appropriately for the occasion." Emily nodded silently, her thoughts consumed by the enigmatic note. What truths had been alluded to, and why select the ball as the occasion for such revelations? On the afternoon prior to the event, while overseeing the arrangement of tables, Emily encountered an elderly maid meticulously arranging flowers in a corner of the hall. The woman, who introduced herself as Rose, had dedicated over 30 years of service to the castle. "You remind me so much of her," Rose murmured, almost to herself, as she adjusted an arrangement of white roses. "Her who?" Emily asked, her curiosity instantly ignited. Rose appeared to understand she had revealed too much and attempted to sidestep the conversation, but Emily softly pressed on. Once confirming their solitude, the maid leaned in and whispered, "The general's first bride." The weight of the revelation caused Emily to falter momentarily. She was the first bride, but the general had never been married before. "Officially, no," Rose replied, her voice dropping even further. It was a long time ago before he took on the role of general. On the night before the wedding, she vanished without a trace. Whispers of her fleeing filled the air, but others had different theories. The maid's words faltered as the sound of footsteps drew near. Mrs. Grayson emerged in the corridor, her piercing stare locking onto the pair. "Rose, the guest rooms require your attention. Lady Emily, the dressmaker, is ready for the final fitting of your dress." During the fitting, Emily struggled to focus on the instructions given by the dressmaker. Her mind lingered on Rose's revelation, the portrait she had discovered days earlier. Was the young woman in the painting the enigmatic first bride? The dress selected by the general was a masterpiece in midnight blue silk and silver lace, tailored to complement the Aldridge family colors, as he had noted. Yet, every aspect of the outfit appeared heavy with unspoken significance. That evening, restless and awake, Emily chose to venture to the library. She was determined to uncover more about the general's history. As she made her way, the sharp sound of raised voices drifted from the office. "You're playing with fire, Mark." The general's voice echoed ominously. "Don't dare interfere again. It's always been your issue, Victor," Mark said with a measured tone, "believing you can manage everything and everyone. Yet, some truths refuse to stay hidden. I've concealed darker secrets than this," Victor shot back. "Don't test me." Emily held her breath, her heart racing in her chest. The sound of footsteps drawing near urged her to swiftly retreat to her room, yet the words she had overheard lingered in her thoughts. On the morning of the ball, the castle thrummed with energy as final preparations unfolded. Musicians adjusted their instruments, chefs perfected intricate dishes, and servants darted about with crystal glasses and silverware. Emily dedicated the morning to absorbing detailed instructions from Mrs. Grayson on her expected conduct. The initial ball as the general's wife holds immense significance, the housekeeper insisted. Each movement, each utterance will be scrutinized and evaluated. As she readied herself for the occasion, Emily discovered yet another note on her dressing table. "Don the sapphire necklace this evening. Carries significance beyond mere adornment. This particular necklace is an ancient artifact from the Aldridge lineage, which the general had urged her to wear to the ball." Upon closer inspection, Emily uncovered a discreet mechanism concealed within the clasp. Inside was a folded paper, but before she could read it, Mrs. Grayson entered to assist her with the dress. As night drew near, Emily sensed the heaviness of impending revelations. The sapphire necklace around her neck appeared to thrum with hidden secrets, and each tick of the clock edged her closer to the moment when the truths promised by Mark would finally emerge. The initial guests started to arrive, their carriages creating a striking procession at the castle entrance. Emily observed from her bedroom window, conscious that this evening would be more than just a night of revelry. It could very well be the turning point of her life. The ballroom glimmered like a gilded fantasy, with countless candles mirrored in the Venetian glass, crafting an enchanting ambience. The guests, adorned in their most elegant attire, created a vibrant tapestry of hues and fabrics that danced to the melodies of the orchestra. Emily stood beside the general, welcoming attendees with a rehearsed smile. The sapphire necklace rested heavily against her neck, a constant reminder of the hidden truth it concealed. Her eyes swept across the room, seeking Mark amidst the crowd. "Darling!" The general's voice broke through her reverie. "Governor Augustus and his wife have just arrived. Come greet them." The governor was a sturdy figure with silvering hair and sharp eyes that appeared to assess everything in their vicinity. His wife, Lady Beatrice, a graceful woman in her 50s, observed Emily with keen interest. "So this is your young wife, Victor?" remarked Lady Beatrice, her gaze resting on the sapphire necklace. What an intriguing choice of jewelry. There was something in her tone that sent a shiver down Emily's spine. The general gently squeezed her arm, a subtle reminder to keep her poise. "The necklace has been in the Aldridge family for generations," Victor explained, his voice steady. "I thought it fitting for Emily to wear it tonight." "Yes, I recall it," Lady Beatrice responded, her gaze fixed on the necklace. The last time I laid eyes on it was nearly 20 years ago, in a very different context. A heavy silence enveloped the room, interrupted only when the governor proposed they transition to the main table for dinner. Emily observed the general's hands quiver slightly as he drew out her chair. As dinner unfolded, discussions of politics and society swirled around her. Yet Emily found herself captivated by the silent dialogues exchanged through glances between Lady Beatrice and the other seasoned guests. An unspoken narrative seemed to weave its way through the room. It was at that moment that Mark made his entrance, eliciting a subtle stir among the attendees. Elegantly dressed in black, he glided through the hall with a graceful poise, pausing now and then to engage in conversation with a few chosen guests. "Victor," the governor called, his deep voice slicing through the murmur of chatter. "Your cousin appears to be stirring some unrest among our more seasoned acquaintances." The general sat up straighter in his chair, his demeanor turning steely. "Mark has always had a knack for creating unnecessary turmoil," he replied with a hint of dryness. "Necessity is a matter of perspective. Wouldn't you agree?" Lady Beatrice interjected, her eyes glimmering with timeless insight. "At times, it is the very agitation we resist that can stir the long still waters." Emily watched the verbal sparring unfold, each statement rich with unspoken implications. The paper concealed within the necklace felt almost alive against her skin, urging her to uncover its secrets. After dinner, as the music swelled once more, Mark stepped forward to ask Emily for a dance. The general, unable to protest without drawing attention, watched with a gaze that hinted at repercussions. "The necklace looks lovely on you," Mark whispered as they moved together. "But I can't help but wonder if you're aware of its real story. Why not share it with me?" Emily replied, her voice barely above a whisper, a challenge lacing her words. "Some tales reveal their true essence when uncovered by the seeker," he said, elegantly twirling her. "But I recommend you keep a keen eye on Lady Beatrice. She holds more secrets of this narrative than she reveals." As the dance concluded, Mark's words lingered in Emily's thoughts. Seizing a fleeting moment away from the general, she approached Lady Beatrice, who stood solitary on one of the balconies. "It's fascinating how certain narratives have a way of recurring," the older woman remarked, not bothering to turn around. "Same necklace, same hall, same family, just different faces." "Lady Beatrice," Emily began, choosing her words with care, "you seem to know many stories about this castle." "I once knew someone very much like you," she replied, finally turning. "A young woman full of life promised to a powerful man. She also wore that necklace. On the final evening she was spotted." Emily's heart raced. "The general's first bride," Lady Beatrice said with a wistful smile. "Isabella was her name. She possessed her own aspirations, her own determination, and she unearthed truths that others wished to remain hidden." Just as the conversation was about to deepen, Mrs. Grayson arrived, declaring that the general was in search of his wife. Emily had to part ways, yet Lady Beatrice's remarks had added another fragment to the enigma she was striving to piece together. As the night unfolded, so too did the sense that something significant was on the verge of occurring. The paper concealed within the necklace felt increasingly heavy, and the looks shared among the older guests conveyed meanings that Emily was starting to grasp. As the ball thrived around her, she seized a moment to quietly slip away to a side corridor. With shaking hands, she at last succeeded in opening the hidden compartment of the necklace. The folded paper unveiled intricate and time-worn script. "My dear Mark, should you come across this note, it signifies that my doubts were indeed valid. The papers confirming Victor's connection are concealed behind the portrait of his grandmother in the study. I can no longer maintain this facade. Tonight at the ball I plan to—" The remainder of the message was blurred and unreadable, but the signature was unmistakable. "Isabella." A sound of footsteps prompted Emily to swiftly conceal the note. Lady Beatrice emerged in the corridor, her purple silk dress whispering against the marble. "I see you've finally uncovered the message," she remarked, her voice rich with understanding. "Isabella penned it on the night she vanished. She too had stumbled upon something she ought not to have." "What did she uncover?" Emily inquired, her voice scarcely above a whisper. Victor has always been an ambitious man, Lady Beatrice replied, drawing closer. His ascent to the rank of general was anything but ordinary. Isabella uncovered compromising documents, revealing evidence of dubious negotiations and clandestine alliances. In the background, the faint strains of music floated through the air, a sorrowful waltz that seemed to amplify the seriousness of their discussion. Mark was different back then, Lady Beatrice continued. He was more idealistic, more passionate. He and Isabella had grown up together. Their love was a secret known to only a select few. But Victor had different intentions. Emily's heart constricted. The betrothal was Victor's strategy to solidify his political standing. Isabella was the offspring of a significant diplomat. Their union would unlock opportunities, strengthen bonds. A flicker in the dimness drew Emily's gaze. Mark lingered by the window, his outline framed by the glow of the moon. "You have the right to know the whole truth," he said, joining them. Isabella didn't just vanish. She uncovered Victor's involvement in a scheme of political manipulation that threatened to ruin several prominent families. "Including mine," Lady Beatrice interjected. "My husband, the governor, stood out as one of the rare voices against Victor's tactics." Isabella uncovered documents that revealed a plot to oust him from authority. Emily sensed the burden of each discovery, as though they were heavy stones pressing down on her. Her personal encounters with the general started to align with the unfolding truth. The relentless grip, the clandestine gatherings, the charred papers. "Why are you revealing all this to me now?" she inquired. "Because the past is echoing once more," Mark answered, his gaze locked onto hers. "Victor hasn't altered his approach. Your marriage, Emily, was not merely a typical political arrangement. Your father?" A scream echoed from the hallway, cutting through the discussion. The trio dashed back to the ball, where a tumultuous scene awaited them. At the heart of the hall stood the general, his face flushed with rage, clutching a stack of papers in his shaking hands. "Who dared to enter my office?" he roared, his gaze sweeping over the guests until it landed on Emily and her group. The portrait of the grandmother struck Emily with sudden clarity. Someone had uncovered the documents that Isabella had referenced in her message. Lady Beatrice stepped forward, her regal and defiant posture. "Some truths cannot remain buried forever, Victor." The hall plunged into a tense silence, broken only by the distant sound of the tower clock striking the hours. Emily realized she was at the center of a much larger plot than she had imagined, a narrative that had begun 20 years ago and was now reaching its climax. The general approached her, his gaze locked onto the sapphire necklace. "You," he murmured, his voice quaking with suppressed rage. The ballroom, which had been alive with music and laughter, now lay shrouded in a heavy silence. All gazes shifted between General Victor, who seethed with rage at the center of the hall, and Emily, standing resolutely beside Mark and Lady Beatrice, her complexion ashen yet steadfast. 20 years, the general declared, his tone heavy with resentment. 20 years of building this, and you believe you can dismantle it with mere documents. Governor Augustus advanced, his demeanor serious. "Victor, what documents are those? What's happening?" Emily recognized the moment had come to take a stand. Drawing on a bravery she hadn't known she had, she moved closer, meeting her husband's angry stare. "The truth, Governor," she declared, her voice steady even as her hands shook. "The truth about how the general rose to power, about secret alliances and about Isabella's disappearance." A murmur swept through the hall. Many of the older guests exchanged knowing glances, as if a long-held secret was finally being revealed. "Don't you dare," the general growled, advancing towards Emily. Mark swiftly positioned himself between them, his stance defensive. "That's enough, Victor," Mark said, his voice heavy with suppressed feelings. "You've inflicted enough harm. Isabella deserves justice, and these individuals must uncover the truth." Lady Beatrice stepped forward to the governor, presenting him with several documents. "Augustus, take a look. You'll realize that our doubts over the years were indeed justified." The governor scrutinized the papers, his expression growing more troubled with every line. My God, Victor, corruption, coercion, strategic maneuvering. This surpasses our wildest dreams. Emily, sensing it was time to unveil the truth, retrieved the note from the sapphire necklace. And there's more, she said, her voice quivering just a bit. A message from Isabella, penned on the night she vanished. The general's face drained of color at the sight of the note. Where? How did you? He demanded. The necklace, Emily answered, her fingers brushing the sapphires around her neck. The very same one Isabella wore that night. She had left a message, fully aware of the peril she faced. Mark voiced his thoughts, his tone heavy with pent-up feelings. Isabella uncovered Victor's intentions. She realized he aimed to leverage the marriage to strengthen his hold, removing any threats, including the governor. As she hinted at the possibility of revealing all, Lady Beatrice paused, her words heavy with foreboding. The atmosphere in the hall erupted into a cacophony of shouts. Some attendees called for clarity, while others rallied in defense of the general, insisting it was merely a plot against him. The governor raised his hand, demanding silence. This is of utmost importance. Victor, do you have any words to offer in your defense? The general appeared to have aged years in mere moments. His gaze drifted through the hall, lingering briefly on Emily, then on Mark. I don't understand, he murmured, his voice barely audible. What I did was for the greater good. The nation teetered on the edge of turmoil. Action was imperative. But at what price for the innocent? Mark's voice quivered, laced with suppressed fury. At the price of Isabella? A profound stillness enveloped the room. Emily sensed the burden of 20 years' worth of hidden truths and deception looming over them all. Isabella, the general started, but his words faltered. She ought not to have meddled. I had no choice. Those words seemed to unleash a torrent of emotion. Lady Beatrice stifled a sob, while Mark charged forward, only held back by the swift actions of nearby guests. The governor, regaining his composure, directed his gaze towards his aides. Contact the authorities. General Victor Aldridge is now in custody, while we conduct a thorough investigation into these allegations. As the guards moved in to escort the general, Emily was overwhelmed by a swirl of emotions. She felt a sense of relief at uncovering the truth, horror at the shocking revelations, and profound sadness for Isabella's fate and all those impacted by this scheme. Emily, called the general, his voice now stripped of all former authority. I truly thought I was doing the right thing. You need to understand. She gazed at the man who had once been her husband, finally seeing not the commanding general, but a man shattered by his own aspirations. Understand, perhaps, she replied gently. Forgive, that will take time. As the general was escorted away, the ballroom, once a display of grace and authority, now resembled a deserted stage following the conclusion of a sorrowful play. Emily no longer perceived the sapphire necklace as mere decoration. It had transformed into a poignant emblem of a narrative that was drawing to a close. Mark stepped closer, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. It's over, he murmured. But there's still much ahead. Emily nodded, recognizing that this evening marked the dawn of a fresh adventure. A journey of healing, of justice, and perhaps of a new beginning. The first rays of sunlight found Emily sitting in the castle library, weary yet restless. The hours after the ball had unfolded in a whirlwind of testimonies, interrogations, and fervent debates. The castle, once a beacon of authority and grandeur, now resembled a beleaguered stronghold, with officials bustling in and out, scouring every nook for additional proof. Lady Beatrice slipped in quietly, bearing 2 cups of hot tea. I thought you might appreciate this, she said, extending one of the cups to Emily. Thank you, Emily whispered, taking the tea with appreciation. It's odd. I spent months longing for freedom, and now that it's mine, I find myself at a loss. Lady Beatrice offered a knowing smile. Freedom can be frightening when we're accustomed to cages, even if they're golden. A comfortable silence enveloped them, interrupted only by the soft clinking of teacups. Emily gazed out the window, watching the garden where she had once envisioned a different life. "What will happen now?" she finally inquired. "The legal process will unfold as it must," Lady Beatrice stated. "Victor will stand trial, and numerous others will find themselves entangled in his intricate schemes. As for you, my dear, your marriage shall be dissolved. You're free to follow your own path." The word free resonated in Emily's mind. Free, but for what? To where? As if sensing her turmoil, Lady Beatrice pressed on. "I know it may seem daunting now, but there's a strength within you that you can't yet fathom. Isabella would have been proud to witness your courage in facing all of this." The mention of Isabella stirred a fresh tide of emotions. "I wish I could have known her," Emily said softly. "In a way, you did know her," Lady Beatrice responded. "Through your choices, your courage. You finished what she began." A gentle knock on the door broke the flow of their discussion. Mark stepped in, appearing just as weary as they felt, yet a spark of resolve shone in his eyes. "The investigators have wrapped up their search of Victor's office," he declared. "They discovered a diary. It appears he chronicled every detail throughout the years." A chill coursed through Emily. "Everything?" Mark responded with a solemn nod. "Including what happened to Isabella." The silence that followed was thick, burdened with 2 decades of unresolved inquiries. "She deserves a proper funeral," Lady Beatrice said, her voice trembling. "A place where we can honor her memory and everything she stood for." Emily rose, moving toward the window. Outside, the world kept moving, unaware of the truths unveiled the night before. Servants busied themselves in the garden. Birds chirped melodiously, and in the distance, she glimpsed the fields where she had once envisioned riding without restraint. "I want to contribute," she declared, facing Mark and Lady Beatrice. "To the funeral, to whatever is needed to honor Isabella and all those impacted by this plot." Mark stepped closer, his gaze locking onto hers with a fervor that quickened her pulse. "Are you certain? You've already endured so much." "Exactly for that reason," Emily responded, a fresh resolve blossoming inside her. "I spent months as a pawn in a game I couldn't grasp. Now, I wish to take an active role in mending what has been shattered." Lady Beatrice smiled, her eyes reflecting a blend of pride and sorrow. Isabella would echo the sentiment. "You too. So similar yet so distinct." The trio fell into a contemplative silence, each absorbed in their own reflections. The future loomed ahead, shrouded in uncertainty, brimming with challenges and possible threats. The general's downfall would undoubtedly have consequences that extended well beyond the confines of the castle. "What should we do first?" Emily inquired, shattering the stillness. Mark shared a look with Lady Beatrice before responding. "There's a property in the countryside, not far from here. It was Isabella's favorite place. I thought we could start there, perhaps give her the rest she deserves." Emily nodded, experiencing a peculiar blend of sadness and hope. "When do we leave?" "As soon as you're ready," Mark replied softly. At that moment, looking at Mark and Lady Beatrice, Emily felt she was on the brink of a new chapter in her life, one she would craft herself, liberated from the manipulations and expectations of others. "I'm ready," she declared, her voice steady and resolute. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow upon the library, Emily sensed a newfound freedom for the first time since her arrival at the castle. The path ahead was unclear, yet it was hers to mold. The carriage rocked softly along the dirt road, carrying Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice away from the castle and its somber truths. The landscape transformed before her eyes, as cultivated fields surrendered to untamed prairies and clusters of trees. The air grew crisper and cleaner with each mile away from the city. Emily gazed out the window, her mind swirling with a tempest of feelings and lingering uncertainties. Beside her, Lady Beatrice absent-mindedly leafed through a small book of poetry, while Mark, seated across from her, alternated between consulting a map and casting contemplative glances at the horizon. What was she like? Emily suddenly asked, breaking the silence that had enveloped them for hours. Lady Beatrice closed the book, a nostalgic smile forming on her lips. She was ethereal. No other term could capture her essence. Isabella radiated a vibrant energy, a liberated soul that ignited inspiration in all who crossed her path. Mark continued, his tone gentle. She adored the outdoors. Countless hours were spent riding, uncovering every nook of this area. That's how she stumbled upon the estate we're heading to. The Willow House, Lady Beatrice remarked. A secluded haven nestled among the hills and a meandering stream. Isabella stumbled upon it during one of her rides and was immediately enchanted by the spot. Emily envisioned Isabella, vibrant and spirited, racing through the fields, uncovering the hidden wonders and charms of the scenery. It was a vision that struck a chord with her own desires. She and Mark intended to escape to that place. Lady Beatrice went on, her gaze filled with empathy for the man seated opposite her. On the evening of the ball, 2 decades passed. Mark added, his voice thick with feeling. We had every detail arranged. I would wait for her at the Willow House, and from there we would embark on a new life, far removed from Victor's manipulations and the weight of societal expectations. Yet, she never came, Emily concluded softly, grasping the profound tragedy that surrounded them. A thick silence settled over the carriage, each person lost in their own reflections and memories. Emily sensed a profound bond with Isabella, as if she were fulfilling a quest that the latter had embarked upon 2 decades prior. As they moved forward, the scenery grew more untamed and enchanting. Gentle hills adorned with wildflowers flanked the path, and the distant murmur of a stream filled the air. We're arriving, Mark declared, his eyes locked on a distant point just beyond the next bend. As the carriage navigated a steep incline, the Willow House materialized before them, as if summoned from a dream. It stood modestly yet charmingly, its stone walls draped in ivy and topped with a slate roof. Majestic willows arched gracefully over a tranquil lake, their leaves swaying softly in the afternoon breeze. Emily's heart quickened at the sight of the property. There was an enchanting quality to that place, a feeling of serenity and potential that she had never encountered before. As the carriage came to a halt, the three emerged quietly, taking in the serene beauty of their surroundings. The gentle murmur of the stream and the melodic chirping of birds were the sole interruptions to the stillness. It's just as I recall, Mark whispered, his voice thick with feeling. Lady Beatrice gently rested her hand on his shoulder. She cherished this place, Mark, and now, at last, we can pay tribute to her memory here. Emily moved slowly toward the house, feeling the gentle grass beneath her feet. As she neared the entrance door, something caught her eye. A small carving on the doorframe, nearly faded by the passage of time. It was 2 intertwined initials, I and M, Isabella and Mark, she whispered, tracing the letters with her fingers. Mark approached, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. We did that the last time we were here together, a promise of a future that never came to exist. Emily felt a surge of empathy and sadness. We can create a new future, she said softly, one that honors Isabella's memory and all that she represented. Lady Beatrice joined them, her gaze surveying the property. This place has always been a symbol of hope and freedom. Perhaps it can be again. Not just for us but for all who were affected by Victor's actions. The three remained silent for a moment, each contemplating the possibilities that lay ahead. The Willow House, once a repository of memories tied to a lost love, now appeared to beckon with the possibility of a fresh start. Where do we begin? Emily inquired, a newfound resolve blossoming within her. Mark's smile emerged, the first authentic expression of joy Emily had witnessed from him since the truths unveiled at the ball. We begin by cleaning, restoring, breathing life into this place. And then we'll discover what stories await us. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of pink and gold across the sky, Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice stepped into the Willow House. The air within was stale, burdened by 2 decades of neglect, yet filled with the potential for fresh starts. Emily understood that the days ahead would be filled with diligent effort, thrilling discoveries, and likely more insights into the past. Yet, For the first time since departing her home to marry the general, she felt genuinely aligned with her journey. A journey she had embraced on her own, steered not only by her heart, but also by the enduring spirit of a woman she had never known, whose bravery now fueled her every move. The subsequent days at the Willow House unfolded as a blend of labor and exhilarating revelations. Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice committed themselves to revitalizing the space, meticulously cleaning, repairing, and organizing each room. Surrounded by dust and draped furniture, Emily became captivated by the intricate details that unveiled fragments of Isabella's life and narrative. One day, while tidying an antique desk that seemed to belong to an office, she stumbled upon a hidden compartment. "Mark! Lady Beatrice!" she exclaimed, her voice quivering with anticipation. "I believe I've discovered something." The trio huddled around the desk as Emily gently pried open the compartment. Within, they uncovered a petite leather-bound diary, a collection of letters aged by the years, and a sepia-toned photograph of a young woman beaming beside a horse. "Isabella," Mark murmured, his hands shaking as he held the photograph. "This is the last picture we took together before everything changed." Lady Beatrice picked up the diary, delicately turning its pages. These are her reflections, her aspirations, her hopes. "My goodness, this is truly invaluable." Emily watched the two, feeling both like an outsider and a vital part of that moment. She picked up one of the letters and began to read aloud. "My dear M, with each passing day, I feel increasingly overwhelmed by the expectations and obligations that envelop me. Yet, when I envision our plans, our home nestled among the willows, I discover the strength to persevere. I understand that the path we are about to take will alter our lives irrevocably, yet I can no longer endure the facade. The truth we uncovered regarding V is far too burdensome to bear in solitude. We must take action not solely for ourselves, but for everyone who will be impacted if he succeeds in executing his intentions. Until we meet again, my beloved, freedom awaits us on the horizon. Forever yours, I." A profound stillness enveloped the three after the words were spoken. Isabella's words, penned 2 decades prior, resonated with a profound urgency and emotion that defied the passage of time. "She understood," Mark finally uttered, his voice thick with emotion. "She recognized the peril, yet her resolve to do what was right remained unshaken." Lady Beatrice nodded, turning the pages of the diary with care. Isabella had always been courageous, yet it became clear that she bore a far heavier burden than we realized. In that moment, Emily felt an intense bond with Isabella. She grasped, more profoundly than before, the challenges the young woman had endured and the tough decisions she had been forced to confront. "We must carry on her legacy," Emily declared, resolve evident in her tone. "It's not enough to reveal the truths of the past. We must guarantee that such a tragedy never recurs." Mark met her gaze, a blend of respect and appreciation reflected in his eyes. "You're absolutely right. Isabella left us more than memories. She bestowed upon us a mission." In the days that followed, the three delved into Isabella's writings, slowly uncovering the depth of the conspiracy she had unearthed. The diary unveiled a tangled web of corruption and political maneuvering that extended well beyond General Victor. As they toiled to bring the house back to life, Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice also endeavored to piece together the truth. Every revelation drew them nearer, weaving a connection strengthened by their shared mission. One evening, perched on the freshly restored porch, gazing at the sunset dancing on the tranquil lake, Emily contemplated the transformations in her life. "It's peculiar," she remarked, shattering the thoughtful stillness. "Just weeks ago, I was utterly adrift, ensnared in a life I hadn't selected. And now you find yourself at the heart of something grander than any of us," Lady Beatrice softly concluded. Mark, lost in contemplation, shifted his gaze to Emily. "You brought us hope, you know. When you appeared at the castle, reminiscent of Isabella, it felt as though the past had come back to offer us a second chance." Emily's heart quickened at Mark's declaration. As the days passed, She found herself drawn to him in ways she hadn't anticipated. Their mutual struggles and shared goals forged a profound and surprising bond. "What will we do when we finish here?" she inquired, gazing out at the horizon. Lady Beatrice smiled, a resolute spark in her eyes. "We shall carry on Isabella's legacy. There is much to accomplish in rectifying the errors of the past and forging a brighter future." Together, Mark added, his gaze meeting Emily's. At that moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon at the Willow House, Emily sensed she was precisely where she belonged. The future loomed ahead, uncertain and fraught with challenges. Yet for the first time in her life, she felt genuinely empowered to confront it on her own terms. The soft evening breeze wafted the fragrance of wildflowers, while the first stars began to twinkle in the sky. Emily shut her eyes, savoring the reassuring presence of Mark and Lady Beatrice by her side. Isabella's legacy thrived through them now, a beacon of truth and justice that would endure against all odds. The weeks at the Willow House flew by, brimming with revelations, strategizing, and an increasing sense of direction. Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice had turned the property into a hub of activity, diligently sorting through the insights gleaned from Isabella's diaries and letters. One morning, as they pored over documents in the beautifully restored living room, Mark burst in, clutching a newspaper. "You have to check this out," he said, handing over the magazine. The headline blared in striking letters: "Political Scandal Shakes Capital. General Victor Aldridge linked to long-standing conspiracy." Emily's pulse quickened as she absorbed the information. The piece outlined how undisclosed documents had been dispatched to multiple newspapers and officials, revealing a web of corruption that spanned numerous tiers of government. "Was it you?" she inquired, her gaze fixed on Mark. He nodded solemnly. "I utilized some reliable contacts to guarantee that the truth was spread widely and undeniably." Lady Beatrice grasped the newspaper, her eyes swiftly moving over the columns. "This will cause a political earthquake. Many powerful people will fall, and many others will finally have justice," Emily added, reflecting on the lives impacted by the general's schemes and those of his allies. The three exchanged glances, conscious that they had crossed a point of no return. The truth that Isabella had died trying to reveal was finally coming to light, and the consequences would be enormous. "What do we do now?" Emily asked, feeling a blend of apprehension and determination. Mark approached, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Now we prepare. People will come seeking answers, and we must be ready to provide them." In the weeks that followed, the Willow House transformed into the heart of a quiet upheaval. Journalists, investigators, and even reform-minded politicians started making their way to the property, in search of more information and evidence. Emily unearthed a strength and eloquence within herself that she had never realized she had. Together with Mark and Lady Beatrice, she narrated Isabella's story, elucidated the intricacies of the conspiracy, and championed the necessity for profound reform in the political landscape. One afternoon, following a particularly intense interview session, Emily found herself alone with Mark in the back garden. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow of orange and pink across the tranquil lake. "You've been incredible," Mark remarked, his tone gentle and filled with respect. "Isabella would be so proud of everything you've achieved." Emily felt warmth spread across her cheeks. "I'm simply striving to do what's just, what she would have chosen." Mark stepped closer, his gaze locked onto hers. "It's deeper than that, Emily. You've restored brightness to this place, to our lives." Hope surged within her once more. Emily's heart raced as Mark drew near. Over the weeks, her feelings for him had intensified, evolving into something she scarcely dared to acknowledge. "Mark, she started, but the sound of approaching hoofbeats cut her off. Lady Beatrice emerged onto the porch, her expression a blend of anticipation and worry. "We have guests," she declared. "The new Prime Minister has arrived." This visit signified a pivotal moment. During an extended meeting that stretched into the night, the trio laid out all the evidence they had collected, illustrating the depth of the conspiracy and its far-reaching consequences. "This is more than just a straightforward reform," the Prime Minister stated, his demeanor serious. We must restore the public's faith in their institutions from the very foundation. Emily, sensing the gravity of the situation, spoke with a conviction that astonished everyone, herself included. That's precisely what Isabella aimed for, not merely to unveil corruption, but to establish a fairer and more transparent system for all. The Prime Minister regarded her with newfound interest. You articulate the wisdom of someone well beyond your years, Miss Emily. Maybe, just maybe, you could take on a more engaged role in this rebuilding effort. The weight of that suggestion lingered, filled with potential and duty. Emily shared looks with Mark and Lady Beatrice, sensing their unspoken encouragement. As the meeting concluded and the Prime Minister left, vowing swift measures, the trio stayed in the living room, processing all that had transpired. It appears our journey is only just starting, Lady Beatrice remarked, a weary yet content smile gracing her lips. Mark glanced at Emily, his eyes sparkling with a blend of pride and something more profound. What's your take, Emily? Are you prepared for this upcoming adventure? Emily gazed out the window at the garden, where the willows swayed softly in the evening breeze. She reflected on Isabella, on the myriad lives touched by the conspiracy, and on the journey that had led her to this moment. I'm ready, she asserted, her voice steady and resolute. For Isabella, for all of us, and for the future we can create together. That night, beneath a canopy of stars, Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice lingered late into the evening, strategizing the next phases of their quest. A journey that commenced with a hesitant bride and a predetermined union, now blossomed into a quest for national change. As they conversed and envisioned a brighter tomorrow, Emily experienced, for the first time, a profound sense of belonging, knowing she was precisely where she needed to be, engaged in the right endeavor. Isabella's legacy thrived within her, and with Mark alongside her and Lady Beatrice offering guidance, she felt prepared to confront any obstacles that lay ahead. The months after the Prime Minister's visit were filled with a flurry of events. Willow House became an unofficial hub for political reform, with Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice at the heart of a transformation that echoed across the nation. Emily unearthed her innate leadership qualities, able to inspire and rally individuals from every corner of society. Her words, rich with fervor and sincerity, resonated with Isabella's tale and moved hearts in an unforeseen manner. One bright morning, as Emily readied herself for another round of meetings in the capital, Mark discovered her on the porch, lost in thought as she gazed at the flourishing garden. You seem deep in thought, he remarked, taking a seat beside her. Emily smiled softly. I'm reflecting on how everything has transformed. A year ago, I was an unwilling bride, ensnared in a marriage I didn't desire. Now you're the voice of a nation in transformation, Mark finished, his eyes brimming with admiration. Emily turned to him, her heart racing as it always did when he was near. I couldn't have done it without you, without both of you, she replied, also considering Lady Beatrice. Mark grasped her hands, his touch tender yet profound. Emily, you've rekindled a light in my life that I never thought I would see again. After losing Isabella, I believed I would never. He paused, seeking the perfect words. Emily sensed the charged atmosphere, thick with unvoiced feelings and potential. Mark, she started, but was cut off by Lady Beatrice's entrance. Apologies for the interruption, the older woman remarked, a sly sparkle in her gaze. But we have significant news. General Victor's trial is scheduled for next month. The announcement landed heavily, a stark reminder of the work that lay ahead. The journey to unveil the truth and pursue justice was far from complete. The weeks preceding the trial were filled with intensity. Emily dedicated herself fully, getting ready to testify, examining evidence, and rallying public backing for the suggested reforms. On the night before the trial, Emily discovered Mark in Isabella's former office, which had now been converted into a hub for their efforts. Are you feeling anxious? He inquired gently. Emily gave a slight nod. Just a bit. Not for the task at hand, but for its significance. It's the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, Mark said, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. You're ready for this, Emily. More than that, you're precisely what this country needs right now. Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, the world around them faded away. Emily sensed she was on the verge of something monumental, something that would alter her existence forever. Mark, I need to tell you, she started, but was cut off by the sound of a knock at the door. Lady Beatrice walked in, holding an ancient box. I discovered this in the family archives, she remarked, setting the box down on the table. I believe you should take a look. Within the box lay more letters from Isabella, one of which was directed to the future. With hands shaking, Emily began to read it aloud. To whoever finds this letter, if you're reading this, it means the truth has finally emerged. My deepest fear was that my sacrifice would be for nothing, that the darkness would persist. Yet, I had to hold onto the hope that one day, someone would possess the bravery to carry on this struggle. Regardless of your circumstances, understand that transformation is within reach. Affection is attainable. Even in the bleakest moments, there exists a glimmer of hope. Refuse to let fear take control. Do not allow the past to shape what lies ahead. Create a brighter future, a realm of truth and justice, with love and everlasting hope. Isabella. An emotional silence enveloped the trio. Isabella's words, penned long ago, felt like a benediction for the journey they had embarked upon. The following morning, as Emily prepared to take the stand at the trial, she bore not just the burden of the truth, but also the resilience of Isabella, the encouragement of Mark, and the insight of Lady Beatrice. Her testimony resonated deeply, uncovering not only the injustices of the past, but also painting a picture of a more just and open future. Upon concluding, a profound silence enveloped the courtroom, interrupted only by the quiet weeping of a few onlookers. In the days that followed, as the trial unfolded and reforms began to take shape, Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice persisted in their unwavering efforts. The Willow House emerged as a beacon of renewal and hope, drawing individuals from every corner of the country eager to contribute to the transformation. One evening, while they celebrated yet another legislative triumph, Emily discovered Mark alone in the garden. The full moon cast a silvery glow over everything, enveloping the scene in an enchanting ambience. Emily, Mark murmured gently, there's something I've been meaning to share with you for quite a while. She faced him, her heart pounding. Yes, I love you, he declared, his words straightforward yet profound. Not only for your contributions to this country, for Isabella, for all of us, but for the essence of who you are. Your strength, your compassion, your courage. You've rekindled my belief in love. Emily felt tears of joy welling in her eyes. Oh, Mark, she whispered. I love you too, more than I can express. Beneath the watchful eyes of the willows and the stars, they kissed, sealing not just their love but a promise of a future grounded in truth, justice, and hope. As a new day broke over the Willow House and the entire country, Emily understood that her journey was far from complete. There was much to accomplish, many battles ahead, but with Mark beside her, Lady Beatrice as a mentor, and Isabella's spirit lighting the path, she felt prepared to confront any challenge. The future, once shrouded in uncertainty and fear, now gleamed with endless possibilities. Emily, the young woman who had previously embraced her role as a hesitant bride, now stood at the brink of a new chapter, not only for herself but for her entire nation. 5 years had slipped by since that fateful night in the garden of the Willow House. The nation had undergone a profound transformation, shaped by the reforms championed by Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice. While corruption had not been entirely eliminated, it had been markedly diminished, giving rise to a vibrant new era of transparency and active citizen engagement. Emily, now a prominent figure in the realm of national politics, navigated the halls of Parliament with the assuredness of someone who fully understood her role in the grand tapestry of society. Her relentless dedication to social justice and political reform had established her as one of the nation's most cherished and respected leaders. Beside her, Mark, now a lawyer committed to human rights, clasped her hand with pride. Their wedding, celebrated 2 years prior at the Willow House, was a tribute not only to their love, but also to all they had accomplished together. Lady Beatrice, despite her years, remained an essential presence in their lives, providing insight and direction in both personal and political spheres. She had taken on the role of a grandmother to Emily and Mark's twin daughters, Isabella and Beatrice, named to honor the two remarkable women who had profoundly shaped their existence. On that bright afternoon, they convened at the Willow House for a momentous celebration. The location, previously a hidden sanctuary, had transformed into a memorial and educational hub, aimed at enlightening future generations on the significance of truth, justice, and civic engagement. Emily ascended the modest podium positioned in the garden, surveying the assembled audience. Journalists, politicians, activists, and everyday citizens had all come to observe the formal inauguration of the Isabella Center for Memory and Citizenship. 6 years ago, Emily began, her voice resonating with clarity and emotion. I was a lost young woman, thrust into a marriage I didn't desire. I had no inkling of how profoundly my life would transform, nor the influence that the choices of a woman I had never met would exert on me and our entire nation. She paused, her gaze landing on familiar faces in the front row. He smiled back, offering encouragement while cradling their 2 3-year-old daughters in his lap. Isabella envisioned a brighter future. Emily continued, a future defined by truth, justice, and equality. She dedicated her life to that vision, and her sacrifice was not in vain. Today, we open this center, not only in her honor but as a lasting pledge to the principles for which she struggled. Lady Beatrice, positioned beside Mark, subtly brushed away a tear. The significance of her involvement in Isabella's narrative, as well as in the nation's evolution, was a burden she bore with both pride and humility. This center, Emily went on, will serve as a hub for learning, discussion, and action. In this place, future generations will delve into our past, exploring not only our triumphs but also our missteps and challenges. They will discover the influence every individual holds to affect change, to challenge wrongdoing, and to forge a brighter tomorrow. The audience responded with fervent applause. Among them, Emily recognized the faces of individuals who had played crucial roles in the recent struggle: brave journalists, progressive politicians, and relentless activists. But our journey doesn't end here, Emily declared, her voice growing stronger. There is still much work to be done. Inequalities to confront, rights to safeguard, and voices to amplify. This center stands as a testament to the ongoing struggle for a better world, emphasizing that each individual has a part to play. As Emily wrapped up her speech, Mark stepped forward to join her at the podium with the girls. Little Isabella and Beatrice, with their dark curls and bright eyes, embodied the future they were all striving for. And so, Emily concluded, embracing her daughters. We dedicate this center not only to the past but to the future, to the Isabellas, the Beatrices, the Marks, and to all those who will follow in our footsteps. May they discover inspiration, wisdom, and the bravery to persist in creating a more equitable and empathetic world. Amidst resounding applause, Emily severed the inaugural ribbon of the Isabella Center for Memory and Citizenship. The doors swung open, unveiling exhibitions that narrated the tale not just of Isabella, but of all those who have battled for truth and justice throughout the years. Later, as the crowd thinned and the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice strolled together through the garden of the Willow House. The girls dashed forward, their laughter resonating through the trees. Do you think we've done enough? Emily inquired, her tone gentle and reflective. Lady Beatrice beamed, her features etched by the years, yet her eyes sparkled with enduring brilliance. My dear, you've accomplished more than Isabella could have ever envisioned. You not only uncovered the truth but also crafted something new and exquisite from it. Mark held Emily close, softly kissing her forehead. And this is merely the beginning, he remarked. Imagine what our daughters and future generations will do with the legacy we're leaving. Emily observed her daughters frolicking beneath the willows, their cherubic faces aglow in the warm embrace of the setting sun. In that serene moment, she was enveloped by a profound tranquility and an unwavering conviction that, Regardless of what lay ahead, love, truth, and courage would always triumph. As the day gracefully faded at the Willow House, Emily understood that her narrative, which had evolved from a hesitant bride into a tale of love, bravery, and metamorphosis, would persist in resonating through time, inspiring and guiding those who would follow in their footsteps. Isabella's legacy, once nearly forgotten, now thrived not just within the confines of that center or in the pages of history, but in the hearts and deeds of everyone motivated to strive for a better world. For Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice, this was the ultimate triumph. Dear listeners, we trust that the journey of Emily, Mark, and Lady Beatrice has resonated with you and sparked inspiration in your thoughts. This tale of affection, bravery, and change serves as a reminder of the impact we can all have on the world. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click alongside to explore more inspiring narratives.